Power. When you first hear the word, what picture do you paint? Disaster, war, peace, activism. It could be different for everyone, but the picture that is painted, disaster or peace, depends on the person that holds power. According to Eric Liu, power is the ability to make someone do what you would have them do. To me, the idea of someone having control over another person seems dangerous. Yet, from group projects to governments, power is helpful to lead people. And it seems like the more someone has power, the more it affects people. So, can power in the wrong hands lead to disaster? Well, yeah. But who are these bad people to be trusted with power, and what do these wrong sets of hands look like? So, I've considered 3 traits that a person must have to shape them into the wrong hands of holding power. Power in the hands of someone that is prejudiced, stubborn, and selfish can be disastrous. What makes a prejudiced person? A prejudiced person only sees one perspective of someone or something. They assume based on appearances, first impressions, and things they've heard from other people. And once they determine that it's unfavorable, their set judgment stops them from getting to know that person or thing. Prejudice can become dangerous as their opinions are not really reliable and they're inaccurate, which can be damaging. When I was younger, my sister would come up to me and complain about how awful her taekwondo classes were. And when my dad asked me if I wanted to join, I obviously refused from being influenced by my sister's experiences. But after 2 to 3 years later, I joined and I was in awe. The people there were so supportive. I learned many valuable skills and competed in several tournaments. I was absolutely in love with taekwondo. Before I joined, my biased mindset is what stopped me from meeting these people and learning all these critical skills much sooner. It restricted my learning. Consider if taekwondo was a person, and my sister came up to me complaining about how awful this one girl is. With my sister's opinions, I would have made an assumption about her and avoided her like I had with taekwondo. I'd be prejudiced. It'd be worse if I had power. With power, I could influence other people to avoid her, and she would begin to feel lonely and insecure. This is how prejudice can lead to disaster. I wouldn't even know this girl, and I could cause damage on how she was treated and viewed with power. Like being prejudiced towards a person, movie directors can be prejudiced towards a whole community. When power is put in the hands of these directors and producers, we run the risk of giving them control of manipulating the public's views through their prejudiced opinions towards a certain group. Media often portrays Black people, mostly Black men, as criminals. This influences the public's views, including the police, to see them as possible threats. Stanford University analyzed 95 million traffic stops from 2011 to 2018, and it shows that Black people are pulled over more frequently by the police than their white counterparts. Due to these prejudices, it turns into stereotypes to racism, and simply riding a bike as a Black man can get you tasered for being suspicious or not normal. This happened to Clayton Dobbins in July 2014. The power the police holds results in African Americans being at a significantly higher risk of being killed by the police than white people, according to the PNAS research article. The media's power influences people, including the police, to be prejudiced towards Black people, and since they have power over communities, as a result, disasters like racism and police brutality occur. Prejudiced people make opinions that are unreliable because it's an assumption, it's one perspective. The mistaken viewpoint followed by power gives that person the ability to manipulate other people's views to see from one perspective as well, leading to disaster. So prejudice causes inaccurate opinions, but followed by stubbornness makes it harder to change opinions. The stubbornness I will be mentioning is the one used in a negative connotation, the one that's fueled with arrogance and overconfidence. They are tunnel vision mindsets that stop them from changing within a constantly growing society. The first time I was exposed to stubbornness was in school group projects. We all have some opinion on group projects. You either love them or hate them. I despise them. But collaborative assignments can be great as some people can give ideas to something another person wouldn't have thought of on their own. With more people, more perspectives often appeal to a wider audience. There's a reason why movies take multiple crew members, multiple directors, and producers to make. But what makes group projects so difficult is negotiating and being open to suggestions. My group leader, let's call her Jessica, was so set on going her direction that she dismissed everyone else's ideas. As the leader, she did have power over us, but even when we protested, she was stubborn to change her mind. Eventually, we formed bad relationships and began to feel a little unincluded. Jessica didn't change or even adjust her views, which created conflict as people demanded different things. Change happens by agreeing and negotiating with everyone's opinions and beliefs, but if someone in power, like a leader, is stubborn to change, it makes it harder to improve and grow. This makes stubborn people dangerous to hold power because, like Jessica, it can cause other people to feel unincluded and untitled to their opinions. This is not the only time stubbornness led to disasters. As parents and guardians have power over their children, their stubborn viewpoints, like their child's sexuality, for example, can greatly impact their child's self-esteem. When a child or teen comes out to their parents, and in return they receive a disapproving, stubborn attitude, the feeling of unacceptance overwhelms them in their most vulnerable, their most critical time of love and support. With this, LGBTQ+ youths from highly rejecting families are 8.4 times likely to attempt suicide compared to people in low levels of family rejection, according to the Trevor Project. When parents and guardians are stubborn to accept their child's sexuality for who they aren't willing to look at other perspectives, which hurts others and leads to disasters like suicide. It also stops community from escaping social norms and traditions which restrict growth and change overall. Stubbornness, in a negative sense, stops one from growing and changing because of their tunnel vision mindset. Growth and change are necessary for society, but stubbornness with power can stop a group, community, and even a nation from doing so. In addition, it restricts several other people from their individual ideas, and this becomes a power that is selfish. This brings me to my last trait, selfishness. Selfish people have objectives that are aimed towards self-satisfaction. Their lack of consideration of others is disastrous when combined with power, as power causes more people to be damaged from someone's selfish traits. Power in the hands of someone that is selfish is exemplified in the science fiction novel The House of the Scorpion. The protagonist, Matt, is a clone of a powerful dictator, Alpatron. In this world, clones are considered animals and idiots as they are injected with a fluid that shuts off their development of their brain. Matt, however, is not injected with this fluid. A clone's purpose is to provide the original copy with a younger set of organs so they can achieve the immortal life. Alpatron, Matt's original copy, says, "I would have your brain destroyed at birth. Instead, it pleased me to give you the childhood I never had." Alpatron chose not to kill Matt for his own satisfaction, then later kill him anyways for an organ transplant. Alpatron's cruelty impacts Matt as he wasn't injected with the fluid and built emotions and connections like a regular person. Furthermore, it impacted the characters that loved Matt. However, with the power that Alpatron has over everyone, including Matt, his selfishness leads to the misuse of power, which ends up harming and hurting and killing a lot of people. Veering from the fictional world to today, this generation's main problem is not cloning, but technology. Newport Academy shows that 92% of teens go online every day. That's an astounding number. But what if I were to ask you, how many of you consider yourselves addicted to your mobile devices? Well, from the same statistics, it shows about 50% of teens believe that they're addicted to their phones. What causes these teens to be so addicted? Social media. But did you know the reason why we keep scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is all done on purpose? The Social Dilemma documents former employees of social media companies explaining how these apps monitor and collect data from users to keep them continuously engaged. Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist for Google, as well as a co-founder of Center of Humane Technology, states that he, quote, felt personally addicted to email, end quote, but, quote, there was no one at Gmail working on it to make it less addictive, end quote. Although people working in social media recognize the impact it has on users, mostly teens, they don't take action for the sole reason of acquiring more money and data. As a teen growing up with social media, I personally felt distracted because of it, and it had an impact on my mental health. Social media has the power of influencing teens to addiction, cyberbullying, increased anxiety, and lowered self-esteem. The company's selfishness and the employees' lack of consideration of their users is troublesome. Selfish traits can hurt people, as shown with Matt and teenagers. Because someone's selfish traits is for themselves only, when power is accompanied with selfishness, it becomes disastrous. So, considering all these disasters are the result of these character traits alone, it would be catastrophic if all of them were grouped together in one person. When a prejudiced, stubborn, and selfish person holds power, their prejudices don't allow them to make rational viewpoints. Their stubbornness stops them from changing their already biased viewpoints. Their selfishness, otherwise the purpose of their viewpoints, is not accommodating to others. Power. Control in the hands of people who own these traits induce inhumane acts and laws towards people which divide this world exponentially and aggressively. On top of that, this may influence other people to replicate this appalling behavior as if the results of these traits are not bad on its own. Once we know what power in the wrong hands can do, we can identify who is fit to lead, to mend, to not divide but unite people. But we don't have to wait for the right people to come along. Sometimes we forget that there's power in every one of us. We have the choice to be the trustable hands for power. So I want to leave you off with a question. With the power that you hold, what will you do with it? Thank you.